it was easy to forget how much God loves me. And when I remembered, it was easy to come back under his grace. Because the 5-year journey, it wasn't anything I knew. It was patterns of behavior. And by being accountable to higher levels, I was able to get back to that place of knowing the overwhelming love of God for my life. And that love came above everything I did. And that was the biggest thing. So 2025, the spring of it, I was like burnt out, ready to quit everything. Quit church. You know, if my wife would have let me quit work, it probably would have been that as well. And it was a culmination of 5 years worth of major life-changing events. You know, starting with COVID, which affected everybody in one way or another. And as a special education teacher, it was a hard time to try to teach online. And then when we came back, it was, you know, just us in the building. In 2021, my father was diagnosed with a rare form of blood cancer. In October, so later on that year, Mom was diagnosed with her cancer, which had come back basically. By 2023, they were both gone within a 9-month period. Several of the organizations that I was a part of, had major upheaval in leadership, in organizational things of different sorts. My wife retired, which changed the dynamic at home and our finances. And I knew by September of 2025, another major shift would happen, and my daughter would move 18 hours away to school. And I was done. And I didn't know what to do. To quit was never in my wheelhouse. So it was always continue, move forward. And I didn't know what to do. So I talked to my spiritual fathers, and they said, why don't you take a sabbatical? But stay accountable, stay in contact, and move forward that way. And so I did. I asked leadership if I could take a sabbatical, which they granted me joyfully. And I remember when they prayed me out, this weight had lifted off my shoulders, and I practically skipped out of the room. And that started me on a journey. I started doing things that in the past I never would have thought would have worked, never tried, but I trusted the people that were around me and started doing those things. And I noticed something. My relationship with Christ had changed. I'd gone from kind of a works-based attitude in the kingdom to, wait a second, I'm a child in the kingdom. And I'm not working as hard to be something I'm not. Because when you accept who you are and who Christ has made you, it's so much easier. So much easier than trying to search and find in other areas. You know, numbing myself in ways like, you know, binging TV or social media or any of those types of things. Because the true freedom and the true peace comes in just abiding in him. It's an interesting thing because I found through that time, there's definitely moments where I had to rely on God because I had no other choice. It's what I chose to carry as if it was mine, and using my energy to carry that really was the difference, because I tried to do too much independent of who he was. And it's coming from a guy who knows God. You know, I've been in the church for 20 years or more, been a leader for 15 of those years, you know. But if I'm not constantly going back to the source of joy, source of peace, source of revelation to move forward, then I just can't. And God loves me more God loves my character more than he loves my comfort. And he will allow me, he won't take my free choice away from me. but how he rejoices when I turn back to him and go, you know what, God, this is all you. It's all you. And the thing is kind of one of the slogans that I've come up with, because I'm a guy who kind of remembers one-liners and stuff like that. And that slogan that gets me by, I actually have two of them. Two slogans rather are, why not me? And that's directly relational to the promises God makes. Because I think a lot of times we can believe these things for other people because we see it in the church and we see these changes. And then it might not happen in our own lives and we're like, well, why? But now I've changed that to why not me? All of that's open to me. All of those promises are mine to be had at any given time. And then the second slogan is once I realize that I owe God nothing, I'll want to give him everything. And that's a beautiful place to be in, is just going back to I don't have to do those old things I did to try to get some temporary reprieve. I go to him directly and then just get that long-lasting peace that I'm after. Much like the woman at the well. You can have this water, you'll be thirsty again. But come have a drink of the living water. If you're too far in the thick of it, you will all think of that as something unattainable. But it's actually the easiest. It's so attainable. Just go to him. Let's go to him. And that's where I've had to change over the last year, I told the congregation when I took my sabbatical that I was going to university. And this last year has been more than a university education. I feel like I've been getting my PhD in the amount of changes that have been made just by simple faithfulness. It was easy to forget how much God loves me. And when I remembered, it was easy to come back under his grace. Because the 5-year journey, it wasn't anything I knew. It was patterns of behavior. And by being accountable to higher levels, I was able to get back to that place of knowing the overwhelming love of God for my life. And that love came above everything I did. And that was the biggest thing. I think at times I'd forgotten. I think at times, if I was ready to be honest with you, I felt like God could do it, but maybe just didn't want to do that for me for some reason. And none of that's true, of course. He can do it, he wants to do it, but he cares way more about my character than he does my comfort. And I love him for that. I love him for that. Because I've never shied away from uncomfortable things. And I'm willing to go through all the discomfort to get to that place of being able to rest my head on my pillow at night, knowing that God loves me, and that's all I need.